Hello everybody, welcome to another Pokésaur video. And it's a main video. Pokésaur 4 is finally out, so it's out production, like when I'm recording it. I don't know how to put it. But yeah, if you're watching this, it means it's out. It's done. It's been long overdue, but I'm so happy to do this. Anyway, I am incredibly busy this year, so much going on, but I'm so happy about that because then, you know, that means I just get a lot bigger videos done, and I love that. So many animals to cover, so many new Pokemon designs. Oh, it's amazing. Anyway, for this video in particular, we got quite an interesting selection for you, so let's start the video. Our first animal in this video is a Jurassic tank with an evil warding name, Gargoyleosaurus. Gargoyleosaurus was first discovered in 1995 at the Bone Cabin Quarry West in Albany County, Wyoming. The discovered holotype is currently held in the collections of the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, Denver, Colorado. While two other skeletons of Gargoyleosaurus are known, there are no official description of them. The name itself came from Carpenter, Mild and Cloward in 1998, but under the name G. parkpini. Or is it Parkpini? I don't know. However, the species name was renamed to G. parkpiorum, also by Carpenter in 2001 in accordance with ICZN art. The animal is only known from its narrow 29cm skull, which provided an estimation of it being an ankylosaurid, although it may have been a nodosaur. Furthermore, the specimen was well preserved, the bones hardly shifting, giving us a great representation of what the animal used to look like. What made this animal even more interesting was that it was found in exposures of the Upper Jurassic, Cambrian to Teuthonian stages, Morrison Formation. Basically, this animal was around before ankylosaurs were most prominent in the Cretaceous period. After Myopelta in 1994, Gargoyleosaurus was the second ankylosaur to be named from the Morrison Formation. From what I've been researching, I couldn't seem to find out why this animal was named Gargoyle Lizard. Still, pretty obvious what I'll do with this design. Oh yes, I'm doing something interesting for this Pokemon, because yeah, I'm actually doing this design. Thanks to my patrons. Anyway, let's see what this Gargoyle Lizard would look like as a Pokemon. Often referred to as sealed spirits or Goyle poo, Penture are stone objects that contain negative spirits that have been consumed and regurgitated by Droylon. These items are often sold at local shops as necklaces. This is Penture, the ghost pendant Pokemon. As the Dex entry says, this is in fact something like a stone dung that contains an evil spirit. Don't worry, they're not dangerous, just don't wear it for too long. When I did while studying these Pokemon, I was feeling drained and pretty moody.
Just don't wear them again. It's bad enough living with you as it is.
Trust me, I'm way ahead of you. For stats, Penture have good speed but are mediocre everywhere else. For its ability, we have Spirit Sucture, which not only means that Penture are unaffected by ghost type Pokemon, but restore health when hit. Of course, this only works against ghost types, so while Jellicent and Gengar can't hit Penture, Umbreon and Chloritza can. Yes, this Pokemon is pretty bad overall, but it does also have a unique ability to become a held item. Giving the holder an additional ghost typing, but it loses 1/16 of its HP every turn. Of course, I want to show the various kinds that you can get. I know, let's play a little game. Out of all these little Penture, pick the one you like the most, and wait until the end of the Gargoyleosaurus segment to comment if you're satisfied with your choice. So, let's see how this plays out. Often found in small villages, these statues vary from region to region. While they have a cheerful smile, some say they feel a sense of unease when they stand too close to them. This is Droylon, but it's in its solid form. Anyway, there's not much to say about its design except I wanted to make it look like a mixture of the dinosaur and a gargoyle. And it looks good. For stats, Droylon is quite bulky with good HP and great defensive stats. Obviously, it's slow and offensively weak. For its ability, we have Goyle Protector. It's a very powerful ability that has a unique gimmick. Basically, if another Pokemon uses Skill Swap on this Pokemon, they will regret it. Pretty handy for some troll sets, and especially against Pimp Knight. Here are the 4 forms. How they look?
They're all the same except for the colours.
I know. But we haven't seen Droylon's true form. Many spirits fear the protector of villages, being able to absorb them through the pattern on its back and then spitting them out into Penture. Their appearance differs greatly depending on the region they're found in. This is the active form of Droylon! As the Dex entry says, they do vary depending on where they're found, not just in their appearance, but their typing too. Let's go over their general details. For stats, Droylon has a greater stat total and becomes more offensive, with the greatest emphasis on its special stats. For its ability, we have Goyle Protection, which works similarly to the statue form, but if its ability gets stolen, the opponent becomes slower with negative priority, which is really cool. For moves, which do vary between the forms, I suggest Goyle Drain for all of them, as it's a very powerful move, and the type depends on the form of Droylon, in this case being a water type move. Also, I think for the solid form, I think it would just be a rock type, which can be pretty cool. Other than that, going for the bulky sweeper set could work best with its great bulk and abilities. Moves like Scald, Ice Beam and Nasty Plot would be great additional moves. So we'll go over the form, shall we? The one you see now is the Rain form, which I used elements from Pyro in its design, but it was difficult when it is actually a water type. Oh, and I also it's meant to be like a French form, but to be honest, I think like gargoyles in Europe are very similar, so I had to be quite creative. So this one here is the Thunder form, which is influenced by the Greek god Zeus, with elements of Luxray in its design. For moves, we have quite a bit to choose from, and I suggest moves that would improve this Pokemon's bulk and offense. So having stab moves like Goyle Drain, Brutal Swing, Dark Pulse, Charge Beam, Parabolic Charge, Thunder, and Thunderbolt. Earth Power can be used for versatility as well, especially against certain fighting types like Lucario. Lucario is like one of the most common Pokemon to think about for me, isn't it? But you can improve your stats with Amnesia and Iron Defense for bulk, but you can go for Rock Polish if you want Droylon to go a lot faster. For something more abstract, we have the Sand form, which was inspired by gargoyles in Egypt. Yes, I didn't know about this until I did some research. I also added elements of Persian into its design, hence why it isn't quite as detailed. For this variant's moves, you have quite a few here. If you want to go for that typical desert theme, you have fire moves like Flamethrower, ground type moves like Earth Power. Actually, there's only one offensive ground move listed here, but it could learn Earthquake, I suppose, and Power Gem. But you also have access to Shadow Ball if you want to just have that versatility, especially against psychic types. Although I'm not really too sure why. You do have dark type moves, so I don't know. But as well as offense, you also have some status moves, such as Sandstorm if you want to set up a weather effect to weaken other Pokemon that aren't Rock, Steel or Ground type Pokemon. You also have Embargo, which is pretty thematic when you consider pharaohs and curses and that are, commonly associated with ancient Egypt. Also, you have some very trolly moves like Will-O-Wisp and Confuse Way to just kind of annoy your opponent, really. The final form, and probably the most flamboyant, is the Xin form, inspired by the Chinese lion statues, which a friend of mine did point out while I was just telling him my idea. By the way, big thank you to them, I really do appreciate it. This was the most difficult form to design, as I wanted to also include elements from Solgaleo in its design, which clashed with the copper colour of the lion statues. I feel I managed to balance it out. And for the dragon's moves, we have quite a large versatility. We have fire moves like Fire Blast and Flamethrower, electric type moves like Thunderbolt, ground type moves like Earth Power. Oh my gosh, there's just so many here. There are so many moves. Good luck choosing, because, that'd be a lot. I think this would suffer from the, what you call the 4 move syndrome? I think that's what you call it. But I definitely do suggest adding Embargo as well if you want to. I forgot what that move does again. Matsuko, can you explain for me, please?
Embargo actually negates the user from using most items, either what it holds, or if a trainer tries to use an item on it. When you were talking about Embargo before, I think you were just mixed up with Imprison.
Thank you. You could use the Rain Dance Thunder combo, where Thunder, instead of having 70 accuracy, would have 100% accuracy. So you can do a lot of damage with sure hits. And this can be also the same for Hurricane, where its accuracy is also boosted. So, surprisingly, the Xin form of Droylon is very versatile. So here are all the forms, which are in fact the second attempts of designing these Pokemon, since I wasn't really satisfied with my first attempts. I might post them on Patreon if anyone wants to check them out. Of course, I didn't stop there. I also added shinies. Yes, I made shinies for every single variant. In my opinion, I feel I handled it better than Alcremie, but maybe I made it a little bit more confusing. Or maybe they're more solid, I don't know. So I would like to thank my patrons for choosing this animal. I would not have guessed this animal. I can't remember. I don't think I was actually thinking this animal at all. I literally made a massive poll containing all these lists, like all these names in, which I think is a bit of a dumb thing. So in future, I'm just going to add like the ones that I like most. Then let people choose off of that. But I will give them the option saying like, no, I don't like any of these. Choose something else. Or they can comment below. But yeah, if you want to have influence over what I do, then please check out my Patreon. From the late Jurassic to the early Cretaceous, yes, we didn't even cover the Triassic at all in this video, as you probably guessed, we have an unusual dinosaur, Concavenator. The fossil was discovered in Spain by José Luisan, Francisco Ortega, and Fernando Escaso from the Autonomous University of Madrid and the National University of Distance Education. The animal was later named in 2010. The most notable feature of this animal was its two extremely tall vertebrae in front of the hips that formed a narrow and pointed crest, which many believe to be a hump, although its exact purpose is currently unknown. Paleontologist Roger Benson from Cambridge University speculated that one possibility is that it is analogous to head crests used in visual displays, but the Spanish scientist who discovered it noted that it could also have been a thermal regulator. Another unusual aspect of the humped reptile. Anyway, on its forms they had small holes that are often associated to where feathered quills would often grow from, likely being proto-feathers. A later study by Cuesta Fidalgo et al. In 2018 considered the possibility that the quill knobs may actually be down to muscular scarring. However, impressions that were found along with the skeletal materials show that Concavenator had wide rectangular scales on its underside of the tail and feet that resembled those of a bird with a covering of scutes and plantar pads on the underside. With all these primitive features, Concavenator was likely a primitive Carcharodontosaurian, try saying that 10 times fast, which were a group of large predatory dinosaurs that lived in the late Cretaceous. The environment Concavenator lived in would have been full of subtropical lakes and wetlands with huge swamp-filled plains. This animal is incredibly unusual but would certainly make for a great inspiration for some creative card design, such as a Pokémon. Speaking of which, shall we see what Pokemon this knobbed and humped dinosaur would be? Oh, here's that! They level their body heat within their funny looking humps, transferring warmth into energy which they use against their foes, or even others of their kind. This is Miniator, an embodiment of what science should be working on right now, but instead wanting to know how big the universe is. Actually, I don't know if such technology is being worked on, but I feel it would be very revolutionary.
Aren't those solar panels?
Is it? I thought they mostly drawn in light energy. Anyway, Miniator is quite cute and has an interesting colour palette of yellow, green and lime. Oh, and I think that's metallic cyan? For stats, Miniator has quite a lot of HP and good special defense, but its other stats are terrible. For its ability, we have the signature heat converter. Basically, Miniator is a heat sponge with this ability, which makes it a great counter against sun-themed teams. So let's supercharge this guy, shall we? Let's see what it changes into. They channel heat into energy within their humps, which millions of years ago they also used to impress others of their kind. They can be unpredictable in battle. This is Corcovolt. Okay, this thing is cool. Its colour scheme becomes slightly darker with certain elements such as the orange orbs, eyes and teeth becoming fiery. Surprisingly, it's not a fire type. I mean, I just can't say much else. This is brilliant work. For stats, Corcovolt has brilliant HP and good special defense, but is pretty bad everywhere else. Not gonna lie, for a predator, I suppose they might take an influence from Jurassic World Alive, where they had like medium predatory dinosaurs that had a niche of being a resilient creature, but have a fearsome counter. It's weird. It's a really weird thing, but it makes it interesting. So, its ability. Heat Converter might help with it being either a bulky sweeper or just a tank. For moves, Corcovolt has quite a few to choose from, although I definitely recommend having a fire type move and any other special move. But you can also use passive moves like Morning Sun for a stall set, and it will definitely work great in Sun. I certainly recommend Corcovolt in a Sun themed team, despite what I said with Miniator, as it becomes its best in the Sun, as Moonlight heals great in the Sun and fire type moves do great damage. Also, in case Corcovolt is burned, asleep or baned, the latter I feel would be more of a debuff due to it cutting the special attack in half, Heat Converter can enable Corcovolt to shake it off. Okay, did I say cake it off? Gonna cake it off. Just gonna like slather it in cake and rub it off. Oh, cake is like the medicine for Baned. Imagine if there's actually an item that's called Cake Heal or something. That'd be funny. Oh, and Electric Terrain can also boost Corcovolt's electric type moves, while also preventing sleep. And what? Oh, yeah, this is ability. I mean move. Thanks, buddy. Yes, Flux Charge is a powerful move that works like Solar Beam, but is an electric type move, plus it can be activated if this Pokemon is hit by a fire type move, making Overheat a good option on one of your other Pokemon on doubles. Overall, Corcovolt can be quite fearsome, even when battling in heated situations. I would like to thank Lord Plopperberg for their design while... I'd like to thank Lord Plopperberg for their designs, and also for doing these shinies, which are like this very cool, I think like Cobalt Red, is that right? Cobalt Red? I don't know, it's a great contrast, and it's a really interesting one too. Anyway, I appreciate you doing an evolutionary line and using an unusual dinosaur and developing a design and surrounding it with a added ability which actually supports the theory of it regulating heat. If you like their work, you'll find his socials or their socials down in the description below. From a dinosaur that possibly had some bird-like features to a prehistoric duck, we have Parahesperornis. Okay, it's not actually a duck, but I'll explain more about that in a moment. Parahesperornis only had a few specimens discovered in North America. The remains of Parahesperornis were first lumped under Hesperornis gracilis, but were later moved to the genus Higaria. Eventually, it was later settled to be named Parahesperornis Alexi by L.D. Martin in 1984. To further establish itself as a genus, in 2017, Asiahesperornis was considered as a possible synonym of Parahesperornis. Also be said it was closely related or even is a species of Parahesperornis. This animal belonged to the Hesperornithes, a group of flightless toothed seabirds from the Cretaceous. These animals possibly behaved similar to ducks today when cruising on the water, whether it stands and swims like a penguin, using their feet to propel themselves through the water. Sadly, there wasn't a ton of information I could find on this animal, likely because Hesperornis is more popular, but yes, I like this animal with how strange it looks. And yes, I understand this animal isn't technically a dinosaur, but as it lived in the Cretaceous, I'm fine with this entry being in the Pokésaur series. Anyway, let's see what this unappreciated duck penguin dinosaur would look like as a Pokemon. It is unknown if Hespangula was made by fishing scientists, but for 100 years, Hespangula have been used to help fishermen catch various fish, thanks to its sharp beak, hook-like claws, and great speed in the water. Despite their bodies being metallic, they never rust. This is Hespangula, a Pokemon literally adapted for fishing. I love the colour palette of its design, having a metallic blue with bright red for contrast. Also, I love the claws looking like little Pokeball bobbers, and the tails looking like a boat propeller. Did I say tails? Actually, is that single tail or multiple tails? Anyway. Oh, and its beak looks like a harpoon as well. Such creativity in this design. For stats, Hespangler is pretty decent with good speed, defense, and offense, but terrible HP. For abilities, we have Keen Eye and Swift Swim, perfect for being offensive. For moves, there's quite a bit to choose from, mainly flying, water and steel moves with offensive or defensive potential. Hespangler can be a tanky support due to it being immune to poison and only having 3 weaknesses, so you can use Rapid Spin, Iron Defense, Roost and Whirlwind to passively mess with your opponents. You can go on the offense with the ability Swift Swim, and using moves such as Rain Dance, Fake Out, Swords Dance, Autotomize, Bullet Punch, Brave Bird, and Liquidation. Oh, and how can I forget? I made a new move called Fishing Up, which is quite powerful against water types. It can be used offensively or to scare opposing water types off the field. Overall, while Hespangler's stats nothing to go surfing for, its abilities and moves make it a worthwhile catch. I'd like to thank Sunlair for doing this design and also making a shiny form. Really creative work, and I appreciate that you wanted to do an animal that's kind of a dinosaur / Cretaceous bird. Oh, and its shiny is actually a copper-like appearance. I like that, it's really cool. Anyway, you can find their Twitter in the description of this video, or one of the other social sites. I think they have a Facebook as well. See what they want me to put on. Our second bird-like dinosaur is the Holscaraptor, and I do apologise for all the mispronunciations I'm about to make, because there's a lot of weird words for me to read here. I say weird, they're weird to me. That doesn't mean they're weird in general. It's because I'm probably the weird one to these people. I'm the dumb one. Anyway, a holotype specimen of Holscaraptor likely came from the Jakarta Formation in Ruka Tulgud in southern Mongolia and was illegally removed by fossil poachers. The fossil found its way to Japan and then Great Britain, being owned by fossil collectors for some years until the Aldonia company of fossil dealer Francois Squill obtained it. He identified it as a new species. In 2015, Squille took it to the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences in Brussels, showing it to paleontologists Pascal Godefroy and Andrea Cao for further verification. After verifying its authenticity among other means, including scanning it with a synchrotron radiation, a beam of X-rays, at the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility, Cao and other prominent paleontologists described the genus in detailed study published in the journal Nature. The fossil was later returned to the Mongolian authorities. The animal was described and named by Andrea Cao, Vincent Bayrand, Dennis F.A., Yves Roten, Vincent Verdinans, Paul Taffreau, Cohen Stein, Rich Chen Barshold, Kishtihaf Toshbata, Philip John Cruy, and Pascal Godefroy in 2017. I am terribly sorry. I even misspelled 2017 because that was there's a lot of names. The genus name combines a reference to the late Polish paleontologist Holsker Osmolska, who was involved in many expeditions to Mongolia, and who also named the closely related Holsumps with Latin raptor robber. Why did I say robin? The scientific name honours Francois Squille for having made the specimen available for science. Holscaraptor would have lived a semi-aquatic lifestyle, likely having strong hind limbs for running and smaller flipper-like forelimbs for swimming. However, a publication by Nature states that they doubt the dinosaur would have had this lifestyle. Its skull has a rounded spoon-like shape, which would have increased the surface area for it to capture its prey. Near the front of its skull, there are 11 sets of teeth, the most known in any dinosaur. Such a simple yet unusually unique dinosaur that conveniently shares quite a few similarities to Parahesperonis, which I swear is just a coincidence, although you could say it looks like a swan or a slender goose. Anyway, let's see what this goose swan would look like as a Pokémon. This Pokémon, while cute, is an efficient hunter, and one of the few Pokémon to not be intimidated by wishy-washy school form. With great agility and accuracy, Hydrausk is able to pick off individual wishy-washy by stunning them with its long beak. This is Hydrausk, another fishing Pokémon. Not much to say except it's such a sleek design that balances with its typing with dinosaur and duck-like elements. Also, the dex entry I made was actually inspired by the little wishy-washy you see in its mouth. Well, that one in particular. I don't know why that one just so I'm doing good. Anyway. For stats, Hydrausk is pretty well rounded. I would say it has the best emphasis on offense and speed. For its abilities, we have Keen Eye, Static, and Swift Swim. The last one I certainly recommend, although Static can be good as well. For moves, Hydrausk has mostly offensive moves and also the new move Fishing Up. Despite its similarities to Hispangular, I feel Hydrausk would work best as an offensive Pokemon with Thunderfang, Fake Out, Ice Fang, and Aqua Jet, or whatever else you want to use on this set. Overall, this Pokemon can be something that you can pluck in the wild and then see if it can pick off your opponents, but I feel like it will just be picked on itself since its stats are not as great and it does have a fair few weaknesses. I'd like to thank El Pokémon for their design. I do love the characters shown in this design. Anyway, if you want to check their social media out, which I only know their Instagram, and they're such a talented artist, but they also are working a lot of Digimon stuff as well, so if you love Digimon as well, they definitely do a lot of fan-made stuff like that. Check their Instagram down in the description. Our final dinosaur in this video is another Ankylosaurid? Wow, we're getting some similar animals in this video. Don't worry, Rhodocephalus is quite different. The first fossil of Rhodocephalus was found in 1897 in Alberta. 5 years later, in 1902, it was named Stereocephalus, but that name had already been given to an insect, so it was changed in 1910. One of the opposite ever happened where an insect was going to be given a name of a dinosaur. Later, many more Ankylosaur remains were found from the Companion of North America, and often made separate genera. In 1971, American paleontologist Walter Coombs concluded that they all belonged to Rhodocephalus, which then would be one of the best known dinosaurs. Recently, however, experts have come to the opposite conclusion, limiting the authentic finds to Rhodocephalus to about a dozen specimens. I mean, that's still quite a lot. Like other ankylosaurs, it had armor plating and a thick bony club for defense, but it also had a pair of horns from the back of its neck. These bony plates used for armor are called osteoderms. Other armored dinosaurs such as Stegosaurus also had these in the form of their iconic plates. You can also find this in modern armadillos and... what the heck? You can also find this in modern armadillos, despite them not being related. Osteoderms are linked by flexible sections that enable the animal to move freely. While this enabled armadillos to curl up into a ball, ankylosaurs such as Rhodocephalus were likely too large and heavy to do this. Rhodocephalus's teeth are limited to a single curved row, which are used to grind plant matter. Rhodocephalus, I would argue, is quite cute, with its fairly large skull and that little smile it has in some restorations. It's just so cheery. Okay, I'm just thinking of Jurassic World Evolution's version, you know, the game, just because I just love how cheery they look. Sorry. Anyway, let's see what this very cheerful looking Ankylosaur would look like as a Pokemon. This Pokemon is able to roll itself into a ball to hide and escape from predators. This is Armoroll, literally a Pokemon adapted to roll. For this design, elements from armadillos were applied, while attempts at making sure Armoroll is quite agile is shown in its pose. For stats, Armoroll is fast and hits hard. Poor baby. For abilities, we have Battle Armor and Guts. I personally recommend the latter as it works better with its stats. Nothing amazing to be honest, so let's see what it evolves into. When Shreddickle curls up into a ball, they release immense heat from their spikes that cause them to glow brightly. They then roll at their opponent at blinding speed, shredding spikes. Wow, that's intense. This is Shreddickle. Why does it sound like a Teenage Mew? Anyway, Shreddickle has a lot of energy to its design, and has a fiery colour palette shown in the spikes, but also has a dark netherrack-like armour. For stats, Shreddickle has amazing speed and attack, and good defense, and okay special stats. For abilities, they haven't changed, but Guts does encounter a problem here where Shreddickle can't be burned to make most use of its ability, making being poisoned its second choice, which can be done when holding a Toxic Orb. For moves, that's a lot. fighting, electric, fire, ground, dark, normal, and rock are pretty diverse choices of moves. Personally, I recommend Wild Charge to counter water types, Earthquake with stab, and Explosion if you are stuck in a corner and need a powerful last resort. Oh, and we have a new move called Rolling Fireball, which is really powerful. Overall, just be careful of faster or bulkier water types like Greninja or School Wishy-Washy, and powerful ground types such as Rhyperior or Groudon. Other than that, I can imagine the Shreddicle shredding many Pokemon in the meta, especially Arctozolt. I'd like to thank DeFastman. Yes, I don't know if it's DeFastman27 or just DeFastman. But yes, this was actually the winner of the competition that was probably about a year or two ago now. Yeah, I need to really up my game when it comes to making these videos sooner. Yeah, at first, from seeing a design they made, I thought, wow, would you like to just do the design for the video? And they wanted to, but they're not able to make one at a high enough resolution. So I thought, would you let me do it for you? And yeah, they said yes. I did go through it with them. I've shown it to them. Of course, there's a lot going on, so I can't make it perfect. So I do apologise if these don't turn out exactly how you envisioned. Oh, and here are those shinies, which are just a cooler colour scheme. And those spikes, ooh, that's a great shade of purple. Anyway, if you want to check them out, their links are in the description below, but you can also see on screen. I just first want to apologise for how long this video is overdue. I mean, blimey, it's what, been like 2020 or 2021? I can't remember. But yes, a lot has been happening, including the previous two Pokéhistoric episodes, which, oh, I'm so excited for the next Pokéhistoric episode to come out. Oh, and also to the cutaway artists, I do apologise for changing the layout of the bios last minute, but I didn't make any drastic changes in terms of scale. It's just the positioning, really. I just wanted to make sure the visuals are centered, because I just felt that having everything on one side felt a bit outdated. Sorry, I just hit my microphone. So I do apologise for that, but speaking of those bios, what do you guys think of them? Do they look cooler to you, or do they look a bit cringy or something? Like, seriously, I'm always open to any suggestions you guys may have, so please let me know down in the comments. So, while I am cooking up in my bedroom in this summer heat, this is recorded when it is about 32 degrees today. So if you want to support me with all sorts of perks, like having your name shown at the end of the video, like you see here, then please check out my Patreon. Minimum cost is $1. Although I want to try and change it to pound one day, because, you know, British pound is easier for me to understand. Some of you may notice that I've upped the scale or sensitivity of my audio, because, well, I felt that I needed to catch as much audio as possible. Like, while I did get rid of a lot of the clicks and other mouth noises, it's very quiet, so I'd rather have louder vocal audio than like really tiny quiet audio. Bit ridiculous. Oh, of course, I'm wrapping up this video, aren't I? Please check out my social media if you want to follow me there. I've been mostly focusing on Facebook and Instagram, a little bit on Twitter too. Haven't been on Tumblr as much. DeviantArt, I need to update that with some of my latest designs. Oh, and of course, if you enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to, I think you know what to do, you know, a little thumbs up. And if you love to see more from me in the future, then please don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and also click that little bronze on somewhere on the screen here. It might be hovering over that bell, the actual YouTube bell. But yes, anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you everyone for... Well, thank you to those who took part in the video. Thank you to the artists. Thank you to the cutaway artists. Thank you to people who looked at the video. Thank you to my Patreons. All of that. This is an absolutely chaotic ending. In the past, present, or even future, I will see you there.